Hey everyone, so let's talk about building with custom timber. You probably have this amazing picture in your head of the final project, right? But have you thought about how long it actually takes to get there? Yeah, that timeline, it's something almost everyone gets wrong. So let's dive in and figure it out.
Seriously, have you ever wondered about this? I mean, from the second you put ink on that contract to the day the truck rolls up with those gorgeous, heavy timbers, how long are we talking? It's a great question, and I'm willing to bet the answer's going to surprise you.
Okay, you ready? 120 days. Yep, that's 4 full months. I can hear you now.
4 months? No way! It can't take that long just to cut some wood, can it?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
So where in the world do those 120 days go? Well, it's not all spent in a workshop with sawdust flying everywhere. Think of it more like a really complex dance. A dance between design, engineering, and a whole lot of communication. Let's get into the steps.
In this quote, it just nails it. It really is one of the biggest misunderstandings in the industry. But we're about to clear all that up. Let's follow the timeline day by day and see exactly what's happening. All right, first up, we have what I like to call the approval gauntlet. This is all the upfront stuff, the planning, the design, and it's where every single detail has to be nailed down and perfect before anyone even thinks about picking up a saw.
And get this, just the very first step, creating the initial shop drawings takes 21 days. That's 3 weeks. Right off the bat, before anything else happens, we're already 3 weeks in just to get the first draft of the plans done.
And here's the absolute key to understanding this whole thing. It's not a straight line. It's not like they draw it once and they're done. It's a loop. They draw, they send it to the architect, they send it to the engineer, they get feedback, they make changes, they send it back again, and this back and forth, that's where most of the time disappears. Let's dig into that review cycle. So the architect and engineer take about a week to review the drawings. Okay, then it takes another week to actually make the corrections they asked for. And remember, this isn't a one-time thing. This can happen over and over again for different parts of the project.
By the way, if you hear the term red lines, all that means is the markups and notes that the architects and engineers make on the drawings. It's just their way of making sure every single thing is perfect, safe, and totally up to code.
So, okay, after all those weeks, sometimes even months of emails and phone calls and red lines, we finally have a green light. The drawings are approved. And now, only now, do we get to leave the world of computer screens and enter the actual workshop.
But hold on, it's not like they start cutting wood that same day. The second that approval comes in, it triggers a whole bunch of other things. They have to order the timbers, get the project officially on the shop schedule, send the final model to the machines, and order all the custom steel parts. It's a flurry of logistics.
And you know, this really gets to the heart of it. The work here is done by artisans in structural wood, and that's what this is. It's not some giant factory just pumping out identical parts. We're talking about skilled craftspeople, artisans, who take their time to get every single cut and every joint just right.
So the actual fabrication, the hands-on part, that takes about 21 days. Now, stop and think about that. The time it takes these artisans to physically craft the entire timber frame is the same amount of time it took just to draw the very first version of the plans. Isn't that wild?
Okay, so let's zoom out now and look at the big picture. When you lay the whole thing out from start to finish, the real story becomes super clear. In that story, it's all about the planning.
And this chart just lays it all out. Look at that. Out of 120 days, a whopping 93 of them are spent on design and approvals. That's more than 3/4 of the entire project. The actual making stuff part, just 27 days. The difference is huge.
So if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. The time isn't in the cutting, it's in the communicating. That back and forth review cycle, that is by far the biggest piece of the puzzle.
So what can you do with this info?
Well, for starters, when you're planning, you have to factor in multiple review cycles. Don't pretend they won't happen. And communication with your architect, absolutely critical. Oh, and one more thing, that 120-day clock, it doesn't start ticking until the contract is signed. So at the end of the day, it all comes back to great planning.
So now that you know that most of the time is actually spent in this careful, collaborative planning phase, how does that change the way you think about your next project? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.